Hello dear soulmate, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Esther. If you're new to the channel, thank you for stopping by. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for the love and the support. So in this tutorial, we're going to be learning how to make this princess dance bustier dress that has a 180-degree flay with pockets at the side and a cap sleeve. So this dress also have a kind of square neckline with this ashoke design that is in front of it. So if you're interested in watching, if you're interested in learning, join us while we get started. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to the materials I'll be using. I'll be using this Ankara fabric, and this is the lining I'll be using for it. So this is my ashoke. I have this pattern ashoke, but I'm looking at it that it doesn't really rhyme with the Ankara. I also have this plain ashoke that looks much cooler, and it's also rhyme with the fabric, but then I'll take a decision later. So this is my plain paper here. So I brought my pattern master, and on this plain paper I'm going to be using it to mark a straight line at the top and at the side. Okay, so at the top like this, I'm just going to mark a straight line there. You can use the edge of your paper, but I decided to draw my own straight line. Okay, and I also went ahead to draw a straight line at the side. So this is going to serve as my center front. The vertical line is going to serve as my center front, and the one at the top is going to serve as the shoulder line. Okay, so I'm going to take all my vertical measurements, placing my tape from that line I drew earlier, mark my shoulder to bust of 10 inches, shoulder to the under bust of 13 and a half, and shoulder to waist of 16 inches. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the same measurements on the other side, so I can use it to draw a straight line with my ruler. So as you can see, I've gone ahead to mark the points. I'm connecting them together with a straight line for the waist, the under bust, and then the bust point. So I know we can't see this clearly, so I'm going to use my marker pen to make it very visible for us to see. Okay, so I'm going ahead to use my marker pen to make them visible. I'm going to label them the bust line, the under bust, and the waist, so that we can be able to tell. So now that I've done that, I think the next thing I'll do is to come to the shoulder line. So this starting line we drew at the top can also serve as our shoulder line. Okay, so I'm going to divide my shoulder line into my shoulder measurement into two, and mine is 15 inches. Half of it is 7.5. I've marked it at that top. So from that point where I marked it, I came down by 1 inch. Okay, so you can see now from that 1 inch, I'm going to mark my armhole depth. For me to get my armhole depth, I'm going to divide my bust circumference by 6, and I'm going to add 1.5. So that's what I'm writing here. So my bust circumference is 34 inches, and I'm dividing it by 6 inches. It's giving me 5.6, and by the time I add 1.5 inches, it's going to give me 7.16. But I decided to use 7 inches. Okay, so I'm going to mark 7 inches from that point where I came down by 1 inch from the shoulder point. And when I mark it all together, is obviously going to give me 8 inches from the top, because 7 inches plus 1 inch is going to be 8 inches, as you can see. So I'm going to repeat that same 8 inches from this side, because I want to get a straight line. So I'm going to repeat it at this other point, and then use my ruler to connect it together. So that point becomes my chest line, which I just labeled now. So I'm going to come back to the top, which is the shoulder line. That 7.5 inches I marked for the shoulder, I'm going to repeat it on the chest line, because I want a straight line. And from the point where I came down by 1 inch, I'm going to draw a line to connect to the chest line like this. Okay, so after doing that, now I'm going to mark my neck width of 3 inches. This is how wide the neck is going to be, and the neck depth of 3 inches. So this is a standard neck width and neck depth 3 inches. Okay, for you to get something straight, you can also place your tape at the center like this, and then put your curve there. Okay, so I'm going to use my French curve to make it easy for me to achieve that curve. So this is like a standard curve, although this design does not really have this normal neckline. It has I think a square neckline, which we'll be doing later on. I'm just showing you for those of us that are just seeing this for the first time. Okay, so from that neck width, I'm going to connect it to that 1 inch I came down from the shoulder for my shoulder slope. This is because our shoulder is not straight. Okay, it's just to help give it that shape. Now I'm marking my bust circumference divided by 4 on my chest line. Remember, I was using 34 inches. Divided by 4 is going to give me 8.5, and that is what I marked there. So I'm going to take the midpoint of this armhole depth, Remember, it's 7 inches, half of it is 3.5, but you can always go ahead and fold your tape like this just to be sure it's giving you the equal the exact amount. Then I came in by half of an inch, so I'm going to connect the shoulder tip to that half of an inch there, and I'm also going to connect that half of an inch to meet this point where I mark my bust circumference divided by 4. So that is going to give us our armhole curve or our arm's eye. Okay, yeah, so I've gone ahead to mark the arm's eye or the armhole curve. So now I'm going to come to the shoulder slope area, and I'm going to come down by half of an inch. Then I'm going to connect it to where I have that neck width. This is just me trying to eliminate any form of gaping. So sometimes I notice when I make my dresses, especially when I'm doing queen Anne neckline or we're working with a yoke, I usually experience some kind of gaping there I do not like. So that's just to help me eliminate it. So now I'm going to mark the body circumference, which is the bust circumference divided by 4, underbust divided by 4, and waist divided by 4. So I'm going to mark it on their various lines. Underbust divided by 4 on the underbust line, same thing the waist divided by 4 on the waistline, and the chest line I'm going to have my bust circumference divided by 4. So at this point now I've marked all of them. So before I go ahead and connect them, I'm going to be marking my bust span measurement, which is 3.5 inches. So this is just my nipple to nipple measurement of 7 inches divided by 2. That was how I got the bust span, and I marked it on the bust point to the waist, and I'm connecting it with a straight line. So now on the waistline, from that point we marked, I'm going to mark 0.75 on both sides from that line. Okay, so mind you, you can use half of an inch because the bust is not really so big. You don't really need too much that there, but I always like to use 0.75 because I feel like it gives me a very good result. I've used it several times. Okay, so after marking 0.75 on both sides, you can see I went ahead to connect them together. So I took the dart of 1.5 inches, which is what I have on that waist, and I added it to that point where I marked my waist measurement. Same thing with the underbust. I took the measurement I have there and added it to that point where I marked my 7 inches for the underbust. That is just to what? Take the allowance for the dart. And after I've marked that point, I went ahead to connect it with a straight line. Okay, so at this point now we're going to get our bust dart, which is 1.5 inches, and I came down from the bust point by 1.5 inches and mark it at the side. So how did I get this? This is simply the shoulder to waist from the front and the shoulder to waist from the back being subtracted from each other. That is subtracting the shoulder to waist from the back from the shoulder to waist in front. Mine for the front is 16 inches, for the back 14.5, and I have 1.5. This is because the front is fuller because of the bust in front, so it's not always equal, and it's very important to take this measurement. So I've imputed that 1.5, and as you can see, I'm connecting it to meet the bust span line that we drew earlier. So with this, we already have a basic bodice block. Okay, so now we can start doing our alteration to get our princess dart bustier. And first thing I'll do is that this point where I came down by half of an inch for the gaping elimination I was trying to do, I'm just going to make it visible now. Okay, because now we are trying to do the alterations for the bustier. Now the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to come from the top of my slope, and I'm going to mark 2 inches on the armhole curve. Yeah, and I'm going to mark another 2 inches from the armhole curve, which is going to be about 4 inches. That should be about half of the curve. So now the reason why I'm doing this is because sometimes princess darts can be for the upper part. You can connect it from the upper part or from that lower part there. This depends on how busty you are. So if you are the type that is very busty, from like maybe 45 inches and above, use the one from the lower part. And if you are not so busty, like 34, 32, just go ahead and use the one up. Okay, but for this tutorial I'm going to be using the point where I marked that 0.4 inches rather. Okay, but before I connect the curve, let us tighten our underbust. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to mark 0.25 on both sides. But first thing I did, I measured what I have here from the center front to the first dart leg, which is 3 inches. I took that 3 inches to the second dart leg, and I went ahead to mark my underbust. And my underbust is 7 inches after dividing it by 4. So I noticed that there is a little bit space there, as you can see. So that extra space that you have there, I'm going to use it to serve as my dart intake. So Yeah, some of you might be saying it's very small, because tightening the underbust, most times we use half of an inch on both sides. That is actually okay. You can use your half of an inch on both sides to, help give it a perfect fit, and that is very advisable. But I don't want to use too much tightening on my underbust. I'm just going to be using 0.25 on both sides. Okay, so I'm going to take my tape, and from that leg that I have on both sides, I'm marking 0.25 on both sides. And after doing that, I'm going to connect it to meet the waist, to the waistline. That is the leg on the waist. So I'm just going to mark that 0.25. And now, as you can see, I'm trying to take the measurement again from the center front to that 0.25. I took it to the other side where I marked the 0.25, and I marked my 7 inches. It's just about 0.125, a bit far from it. So I'm good right now. So I'm just going to take that point that I marked for the point where I marked for the tightening to connect with the waist that leg. Okay, as you can see, I've gone ahead to do that. Like I said, you can use half of an inch on both sides, and if you're very busty, you can use 0.75 on both sides. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to measure it again, just like I did for the first time, and I'm trying to see. So I noticed that it's just about 0.125 far from 7 inches from that side, and it's actually okay for me, or then I can still go ahead and connect it. So now I'm going to place my curve, to get the curve for this area. See the way I'm placing my curve. Is very important to place your curve that way. As you can see, I've connected this side. If you are using 0.5, you would have a a deeper curve at that side, not as little as mine is. So before I connected the other side, I decided to connect the princess dart from this side first. Okay, so you can see the way I'm placing my curve. I'm not using the part that is very curvy. You don't want to use that, especially if you are not busty. You don't want to use that. It's going to give you issues. So I'm just using this side that is a little bit curvy, and I'm connecting it to the second point where I marked 2 inches below from the armhole curve. Okay, so I'm going to come down from that point and mark 1.5 inches. As you can see, from that same point of the first line I drew, I'm going to mark 1.5, and I'm going to connect it again to the bust point again. This is me trying to take a dart at that point. I'm going to extend this line above, and I'm going to ensure that that line is extended by 1.5 inches. As you can see, I'm going to mark 1.5 inches at that side. Then from that 1.5 inches, go ahead and use your curve to connect it to your armhole. Okay, just connect from that 1.5 to your armhole like this, and then you're good to go. So that will be your new armhole line, not the previous one. So this part is going to be going off. That will be like a dart. Okay, so the reason why I did not connect the second part towards the side with my curve was because I wanted to draw the one connecting to the armhole first. As you can see now, I'm trying to place my curve in a way that I will connect everything, and then I will not have any sharp edge. If you look at the bust point, you can see that that place is very pointy and sharp. You do not want to cut your fabric in that way. It's going to give a lot of issues. So you can actually just come out by 0.25 from that point that is pointy and connect them, or you place your curve in a way that it will connect together on its own normally, just like I'm doing right now. You can see the way I'm trying to place my tape, that everything just forms in together and meets with the same part of the underbust. If you look at the distance within that bust point is about 0.25, as you can see. So this is just going to help you eliminate sharp points there, and it's going to help make it look good. By then you still have your underbust tightened and everything is okay. So we have actually gotten the effect for the princess dart as it is right now. And note that on this paper we did not add our allowance, the seam allowance to it. So when we are cutting our fabric, when we are cutting it on the fabric, we are going to be adding allowance, although you can still go ahead and add your allowance on your pattern. Okay, so right now what I'm trying to do is to get that neck design. Okay, so what I'm just going to do is that, remember that this is just our normal neckline, but I will use that. I'm going to come down from the shoulder line by 6 inches or 6.5. Mind you, this is depending on how deep you want it to be, how low you want it to be. So just go ahead and put the mark there. I drew a straight line there, and I'm going to connect from this neck width to it. Okay, I'm going to connect it together like this, and because I don't want it to be sharp and pointy at that edge, from that edge I'll come in by half of an inch, and then I'm going to use that half of an inch to create a curve with my free hand. You can use your curve ruler if you can actually get a curve with it, that's fine. So I'm going to use my marker to just make it visible so we can see what I'm trying to do or what I've been trying to say. Okay, so when we connect it together, you will see we have a curve or a square neckline there, and that is what we are going to be using instead of the normal neckline that was there before. At this point, we're actually done, and this is just going to be the center front, this is going to be the side front. Okay, now so we're actually done with the bustier, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. But before I cut it entirely, I want to close the bust dart. So mind you, for you to close a dart, you need to open another dart. So for me to close the bust dart, I'm going to open the waist dart like this. You don't have to cut it out entirely, just a little bit, very close to the bust line. Then I'm going to now be able to fold this line here and then close the bust line. This just simply means that I'm going to make sure I use that line to touch exactly the bust line like this, ensuring that it's equal. So me doing this now, I'm going to either use a pin to hold it, or I'll secure it with a with a tape. If you look at the side, it's not equal, and that's why I'm using my ruler to connect from the chest line to the underbust so that it will have a straight line. As you can see now, we have a straight line. So just go ahead and secure that point so that it doesn't keep coming out, and then go ahead and cut it. So at this point, if you're finding this tutorial very helpful, please support the channel, like our videos, comment, leave a thumbs up, share our videos to people that would find it very useful. This tutorial is very beginner friendly, and I'm very sure that anyone watching it should be able to understand the whole process. So if if you're finding this tutorial helpful, do not hesitate to click the subscribe button and support the channel. Thank you. Okay, so as I'm cutting, I would advise you that you cut along with me, because I don't want you to make the mistake of cutting the wrong side. So just go ahead and follow what I'm doing and you get it right. So this is what it's going to look like after you have cut it out. And now we are going to go straight into the back pattern. Okay, so now from the same paper that I was using, I will just use the other side for the back piece. And I think what I'll do is just to extend the chest line, I'll extend the shoulder line at the top. I'll just continue the straight line. Then for the chest line as well, I'll draw it. The bust line, I'm also going to draw it there. Okay, so this is just how I'm going to make it easy for us. So the back piece is actually very easy, does not really have too much alterations like the front. Okay, so after extending the lines, I'm going to come to that shoulder line at the top and mark my 14.5 inches for the waistline. Okay, so I did not extend the other waist because they are not the same. That one was 16 inches for the front, so this is 14.5, remember, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line there. So after drawing that straight line, I will now label it at the other side so we can work with what we have there. I don't want us to get confused with what we're having here. So I think what I'll just do here is that I'm going to come to this side and draw a straight line. So I'm trying to check the measurement to see if it's going to be enough for us to work our back piece, and I think it's okay. So I'm just going to draw a straight line from that point like this so that we can use that as our center back. Okay, and then from the other side, we're going to be having our zipper allowance 1 inch from this other side. Okay, so now that we have done that, I'm going to go ahead and label your chest line, bust point, and then we have our waist. Okay, so now we can now start drafting. So I'm going to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 7.5 there, and I'm going to come down from that point by 1 inch, exactly what we did on our front pattern. Okay, so when I was measuring, I noticed that my starting line at the top is not straight, so I decided to correct it, and after marking it, I just went ahead to correct it now. So this new line I'm drawing is going to be the new straight line. The one at the top is not correct. Okay, so remember I didn't mark it before, that was why we have the error. So now I'm going to mark my shoulder line, my shoulder measurement divided by 2 on this new line, and I came down by 1 inch. And then from that point, I'm also going to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2 on my chest line so that I can connect the lines together from the 1 inch I came down below like this, okay, just like we did for the front. So I'm marking a neck width of 3 inches like I did for the front as well, and connecting my shoulder slope like this. So for the back piece, I'm not going to be using 3 inches, I'm going to be using 1.5 for my neck depth, although 1 inch is standard. Okay, you can use 1 inch, but it depends on the style you're working with. I don't want it to be a bit lower, that's why I'm using 1.5. So I'll just use my curve to get something I want to get, like a kind of neck curve I'm trying to get there, and this is what it looks like. So I think I'm okay with this. And now I'm going to get the armhole curve. I mark my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line, and I'm going to divide the armhole depth into 2 and mark ½ inch coming in from the center. So I'm going to go ahead and connect it together, the 3 sides, just like I did for the front piece. And by the time I have connected them together, I'm going to be having my armhole curve. Okay, so after doing that, now I'm going to come from this waist line on the center back. I'm going to mark ½ inch, and I'm going to connect it upwards towards the chest line. This is a way I eliminate zipper bulge. Okay, so after doing that, now I'm going to take my bust span measurements. So please take your bust span from the center back. Okay, check your bust span from the center back and mark it on your chest line down to the waist, and then connect it with a straight line. Okay, so after connecting it with a straight line, I'm just going to mark 0.75 on both sides of that line from the waist. Okay, so you can use ½ inch. If you are using ½ inch, it's okay for people that are not so busty. Like I said, you don't need to do too much that, but I always like to use 0.75. So I came down from the chest line by 0.75, and I connected it to the waist line where I've marked 0.75 on both sides of that bust dart line. Okay, so now this is where we have our dart. I'm just going to impute my body circumference, waist divided by 4, mark it, and add the dart allowance I have there, which is about 1.5. I'm going to add it. Then the bust point, I already marked it on the chest line, so I'm going to go ahead and connect it from the chest line to that point I marked on my waist. Okay, so after doing this, I'm also going to come to the waistline. I'm going to come up from the waistline by ½ inch, and I'm going to connect that to the waist. This is also a way to give the back a perfect fitting, and also eliminate zipper bulge. So if you are using ½ inch, I will still advise you use your dart of ½ inch on both sides instead of 0.75, but I always do this and it still works for me. So now I noticed that after crossing this line, the dart line leg will not be equal. So I measured it and marked the excess of 1.25 at this point, so that the dart legs can be equal. And I'll just connect that 1.25 to meet the center back, the new center back that we have now. Okay, so after doing this, I'm actually okay for this point. So it's just to get this zipper allowance at the back here. So from that new line that I marked inside, I'm marking 1 inches straight up. Okay, so if you notice, when you're connecting your zipper line, it's not supposed to be equal. It might be straight from the top, but towards the chest line going to the waistline, it's supposed to be a little bit slanted because of the effect that we have made due to the alterations we did at that point. So it's not supposed to be equal. So after marking them with my pencil, I'm going to use my marker pen to make it visible so that we can see it. And I'm going to also go ahead and label it zipper allowance, so that we can tell when we are cutting it, and we'll be able to know that that area is for the zipper allowance. Okay, so after labeling it, now I'm going to come to this shoulder line, and I'm going to mark ½ inch there. Same thing I did for the front, just to eliminate gaping, like I said. So I'm going to make it visible like this, and then now I'm going to also get to do this princess dart design at the back, where I'm going to mark 2 inches from that top and mark 2 inches below again. So like I used 2 inches, the one of 4 inches that's below the lower one for the front, I'm going to do the same thing for the back. And I'm going to use my curve. Like I said, don't use the part that is too curvy. It doesn't need to be curvy. The back doesn't even need any curve. Just go ahead and connect it together. But then there's this sharp part of it there, that pointy part. I'm not going to leave it like that. Of course, I'm going to eliminate it. So with this, I'm actually done. I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So just go ahead and watch me while I'm cutting it, so that you don't cut anything that is wrong. So when I was doing the cover, I don't just like the way that place is, so I decided to, quickly go ahead and shaping it very well, so that while I'm cutting it I don't make the mistake. So after that, I'll just go ahead and continue. So at this point, just go ahead and continue cutting it and following the pattern that I used in cutting it. If you're finding this tutorial helpful, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching our video. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Thank you for sharing our videos. We really appreciate it, and we don't take it for granted. Okay, so now, as you can see, this is my center back and this is my side back. So this is what I have. So later I went ahead to check the design, and I noticed that for the front piece, the neck design was not really giving what it's meant to give. So while I was cutting this back, I didn't cut this part, and I just went ahead to do so. So for the front piece now, I'm going to show you what it looks like, and I'm going to show you what I needed to do on it to make it have that design. So when I realized that, okay, the shoulders for the front is too wide, it was not really wide according to what is on that design, so I decided to make the alteration here now. So I'm just going to mark about 2.5 or 3 inches away from that neck width I marked earlier. This is depending on how open you want that place to be though. So I marked the same thing on that line, and I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect them together with a straight line. It's a little bit slanted though, as you can see from here. Then from that center point there, I came in by half of an inch, which I used in creating that curve like I did before. Okay, so I'm going to use my marker pen to make it visible for you to see. You can also use your curve, if you are able to use your curve to get that part to be curvy, it's good. If not, just use your free hand. Okay, it's still going to come out well. So this is what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to be cutting that part off. So because I have made that alteration on the front, I have to put that effect at the back so that the shoulders can align. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm either going to just take that same measurement and mark it at the back, or for me to be sure that I have equal measurements, I will just take the front paper and place it on the back like this. From the side, I'm going to place it together like this and mark that point on the back piece so that I can be sure that it is accurate. And from there, I'll place my curve and connect it back to the neck, just like I'm doing like this. And I'm going to use my marker to, show what we are doing so that you can see it well. And then with this, I'm good, because right now I'm going to be having equal shoulders, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. I hope you understand everything in this tutorial. If you do not understand, please ask your questions in the comment section. We'll always give you an answer. Okay, so just go ahead and then cut it out gently, and then we are good to go. So at this point now, I'm actually done with this pattern drafting. I'm going to go ahead and transfer everything to my fabric. Okay, you can see that the shoulders are aligning very well now. That is how it's meant to be. So you're going to transfer everything to your fabric, and then we're going to start the sewing process. But because this tutorial is very long, it's almost 30 minutes, we cannot join the sewing tutorial to this part. So the next video I'll be posting is going to be having the sewing tutorials. Okay, so now you can see I've transferred everything to my fabric. I went ahead to cut it out for both the fabric and the lining pieces. If you look at it, you will see that it's cut into 4 pieces, 2 for the fabric, 2 for the lining, and I added half of an inch all through. This is the back piece except the zipper allowance area. For the side back, I added 1.25 inches for seam allowance at the side and half of an inch on the other side. For the center front, you can see that it's on a fold. So it's just one piece, and I added half of an inch all through, as you can see. Then for this side, I added half of an inch, except for the side where I added 1.25 for the seam allowance. So just go ahead and do the same thing. So at this point, we are done here. I'll see you guys in the next video, which I'll be posting for the sewing tutorial. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video.